Hideo Kojima has remained largely quiet about Metal Gear Solid 5 and the negatives around it. I'm not sure if it has to do with NDAs or professionalism or what, but there is a pretty solid understanding that Hideo Kojima and Konami had a massive falling out. And actually, Konami had a pretty massive falling out with all of its video game developers around this time, unless they were working on something like mobile games. There was a real push from Konami to chase the mobile gaming trend, and in doing so, they really hurt their console and PC video game apparatus that they had going for decades. Konami was known for Castlevania, Metal Gear, Bomberman, Silent Hill. You know, they had a lot of things under their belt. And they kind of threw it all away. And now recently, Metal Gear Solid has returned with a producer who did work with Hideo Kojima, with David Hayter back, with a lot of these people back involved that are trying to kind of revive the franchise, but Hideo Kojima never did come back, even stating that he would not be playing the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which I've been Let's Playing over on my other channel, Degenerate Plays, in the description down below if you're interested. Now you might be thinking, okay, Jay, why does this matter? You know, why does it matter that Kojima stayed silent for so long? Well, it matters because he finally confirmed something that a lot of people believed, which was that Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain essentially was unfinished. Now, there were a lot of things pointing to this that we will get into in this video, but I think it's really interesting because this has been a subject of debate for a long time. There have been a lot of holier-than-thou, I won't even call them Metal Gear fans, I'd say Metal Gear snobs, who have gotten mad anytime someone brings this up, saying, no, it's unfinished nature is part of Kojima's genius. To which I would say, I want the copium that you're huffing here. Like, that's incredible levels of belief in Hideo Kojima. But it's interesting because he did retweet a post, which was about an article, which essentially said that MGS 5 was actually unfinished. And this is the first time, at least according to the internet, and that I have seen, that he has publicly in any way commented on this. Now, before we get further into the video, two things super quick. First off is that YouTube has been pushing a feature called hyping. So if you want more content like this, if you see videos on this channel or another channel, especially if you're on mobile, I don't know how to do it on PC, but on mobile, you can click the hype button and it adds to the video. So I appreciate that very much. It's kind of like liking. Do that too. Thank you. And I also do have a question of the day for you today, which is just in general, what else would you have wanted to see from MGS 5? Now, there's a lot of people who are frustrated with what they got. There's a lot of people who believe it's the best Metal Gear game ever released. It is very wildly polarizing in that way. I think a lot of people agree that Ground Zeroes was a very focused, complete experience. And actually, that's part of MGS 5 being unfinished. Because Phantom Pain was actually separated off from Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear Solid 5 was taking a very long time and a lot of money to develop, and so Konami and Kojima kind of split that off to have something to sell and to have something to have players actually participate in with Metal Gear in the meantime. So right there, you already have something pulled from the Phantom Pain that's been confirmed for a very long time, where it actually did get yanked out and put at the beginning. We saw something similar with Kingdom Hearts and, you know, having a final chapter prologue thing where it's like a taste of KH3. This happens sometimes when a game is taking a long time to develop and it's nothing new. But that's not really where the problem comes from, because that content, it was still released. The problem comes from multiple things that were allegedly scrapped in this game that finally were confirmed by Kojima in a way with the headline, 10 years later, Hideo Kojima's unfinished masterpiece is still influencing games today. And Hideo Kojima, it's not that he is perfect. Some people act like he's a god among men. But I don't think that he would be so sloppy and stupid after years of not talking about it to retweet this without reading the full headline. That would be very silly. Now, there was a mission that was cut from the game, which was essentially a Lord of the Flies type story called Kingdom of the Flies, following Eli and kind of focusing on this group of children and adding to the world of Metal Gear. But that was allegedly cut earlier on in development, and there was concept art and things like that released of it. in general on the Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain Collector's Disc, but I don't think that that's the story that would have really tied together Metal Gear Solid in general for MGS5. The real problem comes from the fact that the final act of the game sort of falls apart. A game that started off very focused with an interesting open world, about halfway through the game to 2/3 through the game, it starts to get a little more disjointed. It becomes obvious that they are expecting you to replay missions on a harder difficulty to get the ending, and they're trying to kind of drag out the time that you spend on MGS5, The Phantom Pain. Now, some of these things were actually detailed about 5 years ago as well, with in Ground Zeroes there being a supposed playable mother base rescue. Some of this is from a Reddit post that I will link in the description down below, and that is for Ground Zeroes, but there were also unused weather mechanics, prison dogs, enemy mortars, the solid eye, a usable machete, even the cardboard box. So it's not like things were not cut from Ground Zeroes. It still did have cuts. But what's interesting is that there were chapters cut from the Phantom Pain. Chico was scrapped basically completely from the Phantom Pain according to the companion app. There was going to be a skull face boss fight with sound files implying that that was going to happen in around Mission 31. And also Mission 51 was going to be the Kingdom of the Flies, according to a lot of people, which did have 30% or so of its cutscenes rendered, and then it was cut before release. But these are just things that were confirmed cut, and there's actually a lot more, which I am going to try to compile for a Rejected Media in the future, talking about all the cut content. But the real problem, I think, comes from just the fact that the final act does fall apart, and does just kind of get repetitive, doesn't actually wrap up the story in an interesting way, and instead cuts forward in the story to a final cutscene. It's odd to me because it's very obvious that this wasn't finished. I think it's been obvious for years. You don't have to be Nostradamus to figure that out. And while I am also a fan of Hideo Kojima's works, I think the copium of constantly saying it wasn't unfinished was giving Konami a little too much credit in that case. Now, do I think we still have to hold Konami accountable for what happened back then? To an extent, no, and to an extent, yes. I mean, at the same time, it is the same parent company. It is the same company itself. You can't just say, oh, well, what's in the past is in the past. You have to prove yourself. Now, I am happy with recent years and the Konami revival, but there are still things that can be done a lot better. First of all, I think it would go a long way to apologize. I don't think they ever will, but I do think it would go a long way to apologize about the situation around MGS5. I don't really think that's something that should just be ignored. I know from a business handbook it should. You don't want to open yourself up to lawsuits. You don't want to open yourself up to anything. But in general, just doing the right thing goes a long way with people. And even if you don't do that, I also think in general, the launches of these games do need to be better. Yeah, bringing on producers that worked in the past and who care about the franchise, great. Bringing back David Hayter, great. These are good steps. Bringing on Bloober Team to make Silent Hill 2, the remake. It was done very well. I liked it a lot. But these games have launched without optimizations they need, without polishing they need. MGS Delta, despite being a very fun experience to me, is something that's also frustrating because the performance could have been a lot better. Now, do these things ruin the games? No, I don't think they do. Probably the worst launch they had in recent years was the Volume 1 of the Master Collection. But do you really want that look on you? Do you really want to be sloppy when you have this history? When you have treated someone this way, whether he was taking a long time to make the game or not, whether he was spending too much money or not, he was someone who was very beloved in the video game industry. Do you really want to have more blemishes on a reputation you're trying to fix? I don't think you do. So it's interesting to see the situation around MGS5, to see it pretty much confirmed that there were a lot of things that Kojima wanted to include that couldn't be included, that it was unfinished in a way, and that even he feels that way. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, you want to hype the video, leave a comment. I appreciate that stuff very much. It's really the only way channels can grow nowadays. I also do want to point your attention to ways you can support this channel, like our Fortnite code, DJAY123. And if you yourself are a one-of-a-kind awesome person, we have one-of-a-kind awesome items over on our store, cosmobunny.shop. Now you might wonder, what happens to comic books? Where do they go to die when they're damaged? What about manga that's just been through the ringer? Well, what we do is we take paper from damaged books that can be saved and can be repurposed and recycled, and we turn it into transformative coasters, keychains, trays, and more into a new art medium for your home. Maybe you're someone who likes to surround yourself with your favorite interests, your favorite characters. Well, chances are something like that is on our site, and you can use discount code DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase over there. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.